Hey, Jody Rodenbaugh, love and relationship educator and founder of the School of Wealth Genius, where we take a holistic approach to helping people create the life that they truly desire, the life that they really came here to have. And we start with that approach around the area of love and relationships, because what we have found is that every problem that people are having, whether it is they are stuck or stagnant or confused or overwhelmed or feel like they're in survival mode, it all goes back to love and relationships. And so what we do in our Wealth Genius programs is we first and foremost take a look at the core, the seed where everything was implanted, and it usually happens for people prior to the age of 7 years old. And what I want to share with you today is the number one intelligence that you must develop in order to experience the experience that you came into this lifetime to have. And that is compassion. So compassion for me is something that can look a lot like empathy. It's really one and the same for me. And compassion is really the number one step that we take in our Wealth Genius programs, and all of our Wealth Genius programs, because without compassion, we can never clear those things that were the core of the wounds, the core of the patterns that are happening in your life that are causing you or preventing you from having the kind of experience that you came here to have. And so what that looks like for us is this tremendous amount of understanding and connection to the struggle that you are having or that someone else is having without being attached to their story. In other words, their bullshit. Okay, so it's being able to observe and empathize with somebody, but not stand inside of their bubble or your bubble, for example. So if you're triggered in a relationship, if you're triggered by your spouse or your children or a friend or your mother, your mother-in-law, whatever it is, if you're triggered by something, it's because you are standing inside of their story, of their reality. And the reason why you're standing in that is because you're attached to it. You're resonating at the same frequency. You're resonating with their story. So what we have to do is we have to change those patterns. We have to change those stories. I want you to understand that all of us are energetic beings in a physical body. We are all resonating at a particular frequency at any one time based upon the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we bring to the table. Now, what I say over and over again is that children do not hear you. They feel you. They resonate with what you're feeling, and then they repeat what you do. And these are our patterns that we created. So when you were a child, prior to age 7 years old, your parents were going through some shit, or they were just creating their own patterns around health, love, and relationships, and around money. And it all goes back again, as I say, to your love patterns. So when we examine one of these areas with clients, when we examine one of these areas, we first and foremost look at that relationship patterning. So if you choose to, let me just say this. You can change the frequency of a room by walking in a room with holding a certain frequency. So you can change a room in a positive direction, or you can change a room in a negative direction. You've heard, I'm sure, these things like, oh, I didn't like their vibe. Well, that's not really just a phase. That is really something, because we're all human vibrators. We're all walking into a room vibrating at a certain frequency. And so let me give you some data. For those of you who don't know, I come from a teaching background, and I was a science teacher. So I love math and science. So let me give you some data. all emotions have been measured by scientists, and these emotions hold a frequency. There was actually one study by Dr. Emoto where he took regular tap water, froze it, and changed its molecular structure, its crystalline structure, by implanting it with a certain frequency of emotion based on what he was telling it. So telling the water. So, well, not the water, the frozen water. So in one of the studies, he was bringing to the crystalline structure the feeling of joy, right? And it became this beautiful snowflake-looking crystal. Then he would say to it, "You fool, 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 fool." Like, you idiot, right? So that then looked like this cloudy mess of ugliness. And you can look at those studies. They're all over, like YouTube, Dr. Emoto. But all of our emotions have been measured by a certain frequency. And the lowest vibrational frequency emotion that there is shame. Shame resonates at a frequency of 20, okay? And I like to compare this to a dead body, because a dead body is still moving, right? And if a dead body is still moving, it's holding a certain frequency. And that frequency is damn near close to 20. So anyone who is carrying around with them the frequency of shame is not bringing much life into the room, not bringing much life to the party. And so let's compare that then to love, which resonates at a frequency of 500 hertz. Or let's look at joy, which resonates at a frequency of 550, and peace, which resonates at 600 hertz, okay? Now, if the thing is that we can't just start thinking, oh, I'm in joy, oh, I feel peace. Like, we actually have to go in and do some inner hustle. And this is the part that most people are missing. This is my genius, okay? So what we do in our Wealth Genius programs, and what I do in my private coaching with my private coaching clients, is we go way back into the genetic history to find where that first seed of shame was planted. Because here's the deal. You're carrying around shame that's not even your shame. It's shame that was given to you, handed down to you by the resonation, the frequency that your parents were holding at a particular age. So, real quick, I can tell you that if you just ask yourself, what was my mom's feelings around love and relationship? Sit with that. And I tell people intuition comes in the first 2 seconds. 3 and 4 is not your intuition. That's your thinking brain. We don't want to listen to that, because that is the subconscious mind, which is these shitty files in the back of our brain. And we don't want to listen to those until we change the way our subconscious mind thinks, okay? So when we go back into those stories, we can start to untangle. And when we start to untangle, we automatically become compassionate for our parents instead of resentful to our parents. Because here's what's happened. If you were raised in a family where you weren't taught how to love and connect in a way that feels good to your soul, whether it is right or wrong is nobody's business, but if it felt wrong to you, then it was wrong to you, okay? And so what we have to do is go back into that genetic story, resonate with what your mom was going through, bring that story up, and then we can change it, okay? Because what that does is it helps you to become empathetic to your mother instead of running the hell away from her, trying to be somebody completely different, right? Like, that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that you were raised in a fairly functional family. There was no divorce. There was no, I call it the big D's, right? Death, divorce, disease, dysfunction, drugs, alcohol, right? Like, all of these things that help us to create these childhoods that were disrupted. And when I say childhood disrupted, what I'm talking about are these situations that that caused us to have to grow up faster than what we should have grown up. And in some cases, and in most cases, we became the caretaker of our parents. Okay, that's the one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is that you were raised in a fairly functional family. However, where we are today in consciousness on our planet, the tools and the skills that your parents had then will no longer work in the society that we're building today. So pretty much everybody's skills and tools need to change if you're not getting what you want in life, okay? But it being around Valentine's Day, or Valentine's Day, depending on when you're watching this, we want to talk about love in particular, okay? So I said to you that love resonates at a frequency of 500. Now, when I'm talking about this love, I'm talking about appreciation, okay? So there's gratitude, that is, I'm so thankful for where I am versus where I was, okay? Gratitude is first and foremost. Appreciation is just one level above that, and appreciation is unconditional love, right? Unconditional love. And just below that is this feeling of acceptance. It is what it is, okay? Anytime you can get into that place of, you know what it is, and you're unattached to the outcome, you're unattached to the emotion, you're in a better place, okay? So love is unconditional. That is appreciation, all right? When you can bring appreciation into a room, you can change the entire vibration of the planet by you just being more of who you are. We are love. That is the intention that we were born from. So at any time we're not operating from that place, it's really not true. It's just bullshit that we're playing. Okay? So the genius of compassion is developed. The intelligence of compassion is developed by going back in time, digging into the stories, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, what our parents were going through, where we first made the commitment to resonate with them, because we are these loving human little beings as children who we came out of unconditional love. And so we wanted to heal our parents. We wanted to help them. We wanted to heal them from this space of love and compassion. But we haven't untangled the knot and broke the contract to break the pattern so that we could actually have the kind of experience that we want to. Okay. So that's just a little rundown of the genius of compassion, which is our number one intelligence to develop. Stay tuned. I'm going to pop in a link at the bottom here in the comments to give you a relationship inventory, an empowered relationship inventory for you to start assessing where you are in your own relationships. Be it the relationship with your spouse, be it the relationship. We're all in some sort of partnership. The partnership that you have with your children is really no different than the partnership that you have with your spouse, although you are the leader of your children.